In 1958, one of the most valuable objects on Earth traveled to Washington, D.C. Inside a plain brown paper package, sent by ordinary registered mail through the United States Postal Service. No armored truck, no armed guards, no motorcade, just a stamp, a signature, and a whole lot of trust. Picture a mail carrier walking his route that morning, holding a package that looked like nothing special, because that was exactly the point. The postage on that package cost about $1 and a few cents. The insurance for a stone valued at roughly $1 million ran the sender less than $150. Somewhere in a government office, someone signed a form, and a national treasure officially became the Postal Service's responsibility for a single day. But before we get to how it got there, you have to know where it came from. Because legend says this diamond doesn't just sparkle. Legend says it bites. As the story goes, it all began in India, in the mines along the Kalar region, where a French gem merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier acquired a massive, deep blue diamond, one weighing over 115 carats in its rough, uncut form. He carried it back to France in the 1660s after years of trading expeditions across Asia. He sold it to King Louis Roman XIV, the Sun King himself, who had his court jeweler recut the stone into a smaller, more brilliant shape known as the French blue, roughly 69 carats, and set as a centerpiece of the French crown jewels. For over a century, it passed through the hands of French royalty, admired, insured, guarded. Then, during the chaos of the French Revolution, as mobs stormed royal storehouses and the monarchy collapsed, the crown jewels were looted in a single infamous week in 1792, and the great blue diamond vanished completely, seemingly swallowed by history. For 20 years, nobody knew where it had gone. Decades later, a strikingly similar blue stone resurfaced in London, in the possession of a diamond merchant, conveniently after the legal window to claim it as stolen French property had closed. By then it had been recut yet again, smaller still, disguising its identity from anyone who might recognize the original French blue. It eventually landed with a wealthy English banking family named Hope, and that's where the diamond gets the name we still use today, the Hope diamond. Supposedly cursed ever since, or so the story tells us. Over the years, legend piled on a long list of alleged victims, misfortune, ruin, tragedy, all laid at the feet of one dazzling stone. Storytellers claimed the diamond had been plucked from the eye of a Hindu idol, stolen by a thief who was later torn apart by dogs. They whispered that Marie Antoinette wore a version of it before losing her head to the guillotine. None of it holds up to serious historical scrutiny, but it made for an irresistible tale, one that grew a little taller every time it was told. When American socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean bought the diamond from the legendary jeweler Pierre Cartier in 1911, the mystique only deepened. Cartier, ever the salesman, leaned hard into the diamond's dark reputation to help seal the deal, reportedly even having the stone blessed by a priest before showing it to her, just to heighten the drama. McLean's family did experience real heartbreak during her lifetime, losses no family should have to bear. Her young son was struck and killed by a car outside their Washington home. Her daughter died young from an overdose. Her husband battled alcoholism and mental illness so severe he was eventually institutionalized, and the family fortune crumbled around her. But here's what historians point out again and again. Those tragedies were real, human, and heartbreakingly ordinary in the way that grief so often is. The curse, narrative wrapped around them was largely a story, one that a jeweler helped build to make a sale, and one the press was more than happy to keep alive because it sold newspapers. Whatever you make of curses, here's what isn't legend. Here's what actually happened, documented, verified, real American history. After Evelyn Walsh McLean passed away in 1947, another legendary jeweler, Harry Winston, bought her entire jewelry collection, Hope diamond included, along with dozens of other extraordinary pieces. Winston did something remarkable with it. Instead of locking it away in a private vault for wealthy clients to admire behind closed doors, he sent it on tour as part of a traveling exhibition called the Court of Jewels, letting ordinary Americans in cities across the country get a look at one of the rarest objects on the planet. Families who could never afford anything like it got to stand a few feet away and see it sparkle under the lights. Then, in 1958, Winston made an even bigger decision. He gave it away. He donated the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian Institution, free of charge, to help start what would become one of the greatest gem collections in the world. An American businessman handing over a fortune to the nation for everyone. It's worth pausing on that. Winston didn't sell it to a foreign collector or a private museum. He gave a 45.5-carat deep blue-gray diamond, a stone so dense with boron that it glows a ghostly red under ultraviolet light, a genuine scientific curiosity on top of everything else, to the American public, to hold in trust forever. Now here's where it gets interesting. When it came time to actually move the diamond from New York to Washington, you'd expect the ultimate in high-security bulletproof cases, armed escorts, maybe a small army of federal agents. Instead, Harry Winston walked into a post office and mailed it. Wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with ordinary string, sent by registered mail, insured for around $1 million, for a stamp that cost only a few dollars. That's not a typo, and it wasn't a mistake. It was a statement of confidence. Winston trusted the U.S. Postal Service, an everyday American institution, to safely deliver one of the most valuable objects on the planet using the exact same system that delivers birthday cards and bills to your mailbox. Registered mail, at the time, was actually considered one of the most secure ways to move something valuable. Every handoff logged, every custodian signing for it. A paper trail from the moment it left Winston's hands to the moment it arrived at its destination. Somewhere on that route was a man named James Todd, a Washington, D.C. postal carrier just doing his job. He didn't have a security detail. He wasn't part of some elite unit. He was simply the mailman on duty, handed the responsibility of carrying a package worth a fortune, treating it with the same steady professionalism he brought to every delivery on his route. Think about that for a second. An ordinary American, walking down a Washington street on a November morning in 1958, carrying one of the most famous gemstones in human history tucked under his arm like any other parcel, nodding hello to neighbors along the way who had no idea what was passing by them. Then he arrived. He climbed the steps of the Smithsonian and handed over the plain brown package. The registered mail slip was signed, the string was cut, the paper came away, and inside was the Hope Diamond, catching the light for the first time in its new, permanent home. Museum staff reportedly gathered around, almost in disbelief that something so ordinary-looking on the outside could contain something so extraordinary within. It's been on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History ever since, anchoring the National Gem Collection, viewed by millions of visitors from around the world every year. One of the most iconic objects any museum on Earth has ever held. It sits today in a rotating case of bulletproof glass, still catching the light the same way it did the moment James Todd handed it over, still drawing crowds who line up just to stand in front of it for a few seconds. There's something quietly beautiful about how it got there. No pomp, no royal procession, no fanfare, just an American postal worker doing his job well, delivering a treasure the exact same way the Postal Service delivers for every single citizen, every single day. That's the story underneath the story. Reliability, trust, and an institution built to serve everyone equally, handling a king's ransom with the same care it gives a letter from your grandmother. It's a small, overlooked example of something bigger about the American experiment, systems built not for kings and courts, but for ordinary people that turn out sturdy enough to carry extraordinary weight when called upon. As for the legend, it doesn't quite end there. Some tellings of the tale claim that soon after his delivery, James Todd's luck took a turn, an injury, a house fire even. As the story sometimes goes, the loss of his wife and his dog, all supposedly within the following year. Make of that what you will. It's the kind of detail that gets added onto a legend over the years, folklore layered onto folklore, impossible to verify and almost certainly just a good story getting better with every retelling. The same way the diamond itself picked up myths every time it changed hands over 3 centuries. Because in the end, That's really what the curse of the Hope Diamond has always been, not a supernatural force, but a great story, so good that people have been retelling it for over a century. The real magic isn't a curse at all. It's a diamond worth a fortune, entrusted to an ordinary mail carrier, delivered safely to the American people, and sitting today behind glass in Washington, D.C., for anyone anywhere to come see for themselves. No curse required, just an American story worth telling.